my hand because I like to walk around, so I get a little dizzy. Sometimes I get, excited. So, I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Pastor Gooden. Thank you for giving me this honor to come up here to the Bronx and speak to all the beautiful people in this room. Thank you for allowing me to come to your church. Thank you for allowing all of us in uniform to come to this church. It is an amazing day. The weather is beautiful outside. Everyone is beautiful in here, so I'm so happy to be here. My name is Inspector Stephen Griffith. I am the commanding officer of the citywide outreach unit for Chief Jaffe, who is my boss in community affairs. Before I start my speech, I'm going to talk about three things. So, I put it down. When you get ready for a speech, sometimes you get a little nervous and you're not sure. So I said, let me get the words right. So I remember the first word was outreach. We're going to talk about outreach. I think I remembered. The next one is credibility. We're going to talk about credibility. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is, I know I was going to forget this last one. This one I spoke to you about, sir, discretion. Yeah. So we're going to talk about these three things and how it impacts my life and how it impacts all New Yorkers' life. So first of all, a little bit about me, 22 years on the force, a lot of different assignments. I've had the pleasure to work with these two men here. I've learned a lot from the great inspector, Will Stevenson. He'll probably be police commissioner one day, so I'll be working for him. And I've learned a lot from this young man. I'm very proud of this young man as he works his way up into this department and just seeing the incredible things that he's doing here in the Bronx. So, I'm honored to be here and to speak here. Now, what do? I usually say I have one of the best jobs in the world. And the job that I have is really just to go out to all different parts of the city, because we're a citywide unit, and I engage New Yorkers in conversations. I usually tell my wife when I leave the door, I'm going traveling. I'm going to visit the different countries of the world. And I don't need a passport, and I don't have to worry about getting filled up by TSS agents. And if there is some here, I apologize. It's part of my speech. So when I get out the door, some of the parts I hit first. I might first come to the city, and I might start off in Korea, Korea and Flushing. And I get to meet very dynamic people. We get to talk, and I get to find out what's going on in their community. And all right, it's time for lunch. So I might head to Brooklyn, Coney Island Avenue, and Little Pakistan. And I get to meet beautiful people, and I get to find out what's going on in their little part of the world. And they get to tell me what's going on in theirs. And then I come back uptown, and I get a little hungry. So I head to the Dominican Republic, and I stop up in the 3-4 precinct. I love my rice and chicken, so I get my rice and chicken, eat good. I get to meet people. I get to find out what's going on there. And then right before I head home and I head back up to where I live, I head to the Caribbean, and I see my friend over here, Will Stevenson, and I head over to the 4-7 precinct, and I get to indulge myself in all the beauties of the different islands that make up the northern part of the Bronx, and really get to speak to the people and find out what's going on here, what affects them. So really, I get a chance to travel the city with my police officers, and we really get to engage people. We get to find out what's going on. And by doing this, I've been doing this for a year. What I found out, there is no better place and no better partner if you want to find out what's going on than in the houses of worship. Because that's the place you find out what's going on in the community. Because realistically, we're a city of immigrants. And everyone that's come here, my parents came here when they were teenagers, to a different country, to a different continent from Guyana. They came here very young. And the first place they went to, the first place we all go to as New Yorkers is our house of worship. That's the place where we feel safe. That's the place where we see people that are just like us from the old country. That's a place that we use to transition us, and that's the place where my parents used to transition them into this place called America. This big, busy place where sometimes it's very intimidating. From when you came from a town where there was only a couple hundred people, and now you're walking around millions. So the houses of worship and the people, the preachers, the imam, whatever their titles, they have been, throughout the history of this country, been that place for New Yorkers to come, for Americans to come and transition and to follow their dreams. So there is no better partners for me than my faith leaders. Now that's not to say they're not going to keep it real. They're going to be honest with you. And they're going to tell you when you're doing right. And they're going to tell you when you're going to do wrong. But they're going to support you, because their agenda is the same agenda as you. They want to help this community. They want to build this community. And the only way they can do that is knowing to partnership, with the police department and other city agencies. So, I'm amazed every time I come, and I visit these houses of worship, and I really get to understand what's going on in the community. Because every 4 blocks in New York City is a different community. You go 4 blocks, it's a different community, and it's a different house of worship. In New York City, we have over 8,000 houses of worship. And they go from St. Patrick's Cathedral just to an office in a building where people get together and they pray. And that's where changes happen. That's where you meet. That's where you talk. That's where you find out. And as a department, if we want to reach people, especially the people who may not, feel comfortable reaching out to the police. There are people that come from places where the police were the oppressor. And they come here and they're very uncomfortable when it talks to come to the police. We go to our religious leaders and they're able to take us places where we're not ordinarily able to go. So we need to get out information about a scam targeting immigrants. Everyone's heard about these green dot scams. We go to our houses of worships and we meet with them and they're able to take us to that particular group. We want to reach out to our seniors. We go with our leaders for houses of worship and they're able to take us there. So as far as outreach, there's no better partners than our religious leaders. Now, I'm going to move on. Now I'm going to talk about credibility. This is when I get a little controversial. I've been in trouble before, because sometimes I say things that people don't like. When I talk about credibility, I say we as a department, for us to be taken seriously, and for people to really have faith in what we do, we have to be credible. Any big organization, especially an organization that deals with the people, you have to be credible. So that means that we have to be honest. People that have worn this uniform just like me have not represented in the way they should be represented. That is the truth. And if we do not say that, and we do not accept that, we cannot be a credible organization. And I tell people that. And of course, that doesn't always go over well, especially when I'm in rooms of 1PP. But I gotta say, they allow me to keep coming out here. And I know somebody here is watching. This department's a big department. Somebody's taking out numbers, and there's probably a reporter somewhere here. But I do think it goes to the credit of our new police commissioner and the people that are in charge. They do understand there is a disconnect between what the police department is doing and the way some, not everyone, some in the community perceive what the police department is doing. So there is a campaign out here by putting dynamic leaders like Inspector Raul Stevenson and the up-and-coming here, Captain Walter. They understand that, we gotta do things a little differently. There is no doubt that the NYPD is the best police department in the world. But even the best have to be realistic. There are things that have to change. And I think the organization understands that, and they've heard some of the outcries from New Yorkers, and they've seen what's going on around the country. And there's been new initiatives, NCO program, the community partner programs, like Pastor Gooden says, the police commission has opened its doors and brought leaders in. And he allows a guy like me to go out there and say some things, even though I go off the rails a little bit. He allows me to keep coming out here and keep talking. And I think that's the thing we have to understand. We have to be an organization that is comfortable enough to take the criticism as as comfortable as we are getting the praises. So, we gotta be comfortable with people telling us what we do wrong, and work with that. As we are comfortable with getting applauses and the claps for the crime reduction. And I think when we do that, we become a better organization. So that moves me on down to discretion. When I used to talk to my police officers as a commanding officer in the 2-6 precinct, I would tell them, you have a tool belt. On that tool belt, you have a lot of things going on. You have your radio, very important. You gotta know where you are so you can call people to help you out. You have your flashlight, also helps you. You have your handcuffs, and you have your firearm. Very important tools to doing the job. But there is also another tool that we've had for so long as police officers, and we haven't been using it. And that's the tool of discretion. As a police officer, we can go out there, we can do our job, we can be effective, but we can also use that power of discretion to let a person know, you made a mistake, but I emphasize with you, I know you were having a bad day. I know we have accidents here, and the chief has told me to get out there and make sure we take care of that because we don't want people to get hurt, we don't want jaywalkers, and we have to discourage that. But you know what? Does it make sense to give a summons to an 80-year-old person? Does it make sense to take a grown man, throw him on the wall? And most cops, you're 22 years old, 23 years old. What image does that send when that grown man has his hands on the wall, his two sons are watching him, and young police officers are patting him down, and then you walk away from him? You can't walk away from him without at least explaining why. Because there are reasons why we do the job we do. Sometimes I think the mistake is that we just walk away, and we assume that everyone knows. What good is your decrease in crime? What good is a commanding officer? You go up here and say, I had a 20% reduction in this, 10% reduction in that. But you don't take the time to ingrace yourself with the community. That means nothing to a person if that's the image they see. What does it mean to those two young boys to see their dad thrown on a wall, disrespected, and then the police officers walk away? Because I tell my officers, you can make a mistake. Someone calls you, someone's just been robbed, you gotta go out there, you have to try to get the person that victimized that person. But in doing this, we have to be careful that we don't also victimize the whole community. And I think that's what a disconnect is. I think that when I speak to officers and I try to speak to people in the community, the goals are common. The goals are, we want to be safe. We want to have a place where our community can be safe and our kids can strive. And we understand that the police is needed. Most people respect what the symbolism of the NYPD stands for. But it only takes a couple of cops let loose in a precinct to destroy all that. Like I was telling the Reverend, you have a sector car with two police officers that don't care about anyone, and they ride through the streets of a particular precinct in the Bronx. They can destroy the work that everybody has done for so long, because we're human beings. And the things that we remember is not always the things that are great, it's the things that hurt us. So that picture of that man on the wall with his hands up and his two boys watching him and officers patting him down will leave an impression not only on the particular family, but on the whole community, that a commanding officer and everybody else running around doing good deeds cannot wash away. So we have to be careful as we deploy our duties every day to keep New Yorkers safe, that we help them to buy into what we're doing. And we can only do that in these rooms, in constant conversation, explaining to them what we're doing, but also listening to them and realizing that we can do better. We're the greatest police department in the world, and we can do the job just a little bit better so everyone can buy in. Because realistically, kids walking down Hunts Point in South Brooklyn, in the Bronx. I say Brooklyn all the time because I'm a Brooklyn guy. But kids walking down Hunts Point in the Bronx have to feel the same way, have to believe that this NYPD cares just as much as them as a hipster buying a $500,000 apartment in Williamsburg. And if that doesn't happen, if that feeling is not the same in New York City, then it is a problem. And that's something that we have to correct. So thank you. Thank you so much.